Oglądnijmy od Josha Worst MMO Ever Guild Warsy. Słuchajcie, już wam mówię, dlaczego to oglądamy. Oglądamy to dlatego, że widzowie wpadłem na genialny pomysł rok temu, ale realizuję go dopiero teraz. Ogranie jeszcze raz Guild Warsów 1. Ja je ogrywałem kiedyś na streamach i wam pokazywałem i generalnie uważam, patrz, jest nawet mój komentarz 2 lata temu. I still hope that one day this game is gonna have a huge return and people are gonna start playing it again. Stary, już 2 lata temu, stary. Jest nawet komentarz mój. Jest. I teraz widzowie, słuchajcie. Guild Warsy to jest MMO z 2005 roku, które strasznie skanibalizował WoW. No pre-watch, ja to oglądałem kiedyś, to jest widzowie pre-watch. I Josh 2 lata temu to ogrywał u siebie na streamach i on mega ten tytuł pochwalił. I już wam mówię, co następuje. Guild Wars 1 to jest RPG, który jest bardzo mocno nastawiony na to, co jesteś w stanie osiągnąć w nim sam, a nie na granie w drużynie. Oczywiście możesz grać w drużynie, ale dużą część tej gry jesteś w stanie wysolować i to jest w niej przepiękne. I to jest gra, która jest bardzo mocno singleplayerowa z uwagi na to. Chris Wilson też uwielbia Guild Wars 1. Co ty gadasz? Krzysztof Wielczyński nawet uwielbia Guild Wars 1 i będziemy siadać do tych Guild Warsów 1 i teraz tak, Guild Wars 1 obecnie kosztują na Steamie, widzowie, Guild Wars Trilogy. Guild Wars Trilogy obecnie kosztuje na Steamie 108 zł i okazuje się, że ta gra ma co każdego Steam Sale'a przecenę do 30 zł, 35 i prawdopodobnie będzie przeceniona w czwartek. Ja tą grę oczywiście mam i swoje stare konto, ale widzowie, w czwartek rozpoczynam event Guild Warsowy. Nie wiem, kiedy wy to oglądacie na YouTubie, prawdopodobnie w środę. Dzięki Bandura za 2. miesiąc suba. I ja w czwartek robię powrót ze społecznością do Guild Warsa 1. W tą grę gra online 30 osób, widzowie, concurrent. Ta gra nie ma graczy, ona jest całkowicie martwa, ale serwery nadal kurwa działają. I zasiadamy wszyscy do Guild Warsów, robimy gildy, progresujemy całą grę stary od zera. Obstawiam, że to będzie content tak, wiecie, na tydzień, na 2 tygodnie i każdy jest oczywiście zaproszony. Będzie, słuchajcie, ludologiczna gildia postawiona i to, co jest najlepsze, ta gra jest bardzo nastawiona na ekonomię, ale w takiej zrozumiałej formie. Czyli jakby postawimy gildię i będziemy chcieli mieć w gildii kupca, to my go pierwsze będziemy musieli zapłacić za niego, żeby on tam w ogóle występował. Więc my będziemy musieli ciłać tego golda, pobierać jakieś podatki. Zobaczycie to zresztą na streamach, ale no 30 stary 5 zeta, no nie? To będzie warte, żeby to przetestować i żebyśmy sobie w to popykali. Obejrzymy sobie teraz odcinek Josha.
I came looking for copper and I found gold. Famous words, probably never said by Christopher Columbus himself, but this meme of him gazing into the distance with ships in the foreground does say it, and this is how I feel. The Worst MMO Ever series is all about finding the flops and the failures of the MMORPG world, but after 8 hours of playing Guild Wars 1, I might have found one of my newest favorite adventure games ever. And for all of you screaming, Guild Wars 1 isn't an MMORPG, it's a cooperative adventure game. Don't worry, we will get to you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife-Hayes, and this is Worst MMO Ever, a series where I play through the worst MMO games I can find.
Generalnie widzowie, w dużym skrócie, słuchajcie, żeby wam to opisać, Guild Warsy 1 to jest MMO, który bazuje na systemie 8 skilli. Masz 8 skilli na pasku i tylko z taką ilością skilli możesz wyjść z miasta. I musisz je dobrać w takiej formie, żeby się ze sobą synergowały. Synergiowały chyba. I uwaga, skilli w grze, podaje ilość, jest 3,5 tysiąca. To nie jest tak, że w tej grze jest 100 skilli. Ich jest 3,5 tysiąca. I ktoś może powiedzieć, ty no stary, ale to... Skąd ja mam wiedzieć, które skille wybrać, skoro jest ich 3,5 tysiąca? Słuchaj, na start to może masz ich 20. Masz podstawowych trenerów w mieście, którzy cię uczą tych skilli. W każdym mieście trener uczy innego skilla na twoją klasę. W Diablo było chyba 120. Ale bardzo dużą część tych skilli musisz pozyskać w świecie. Jak pozyskujesz skille w świecie? Musisz znaleźć moba, który używa tego skilla i wyjść z sygnetem, który go zdobywa, żeby go wchłonąć. I dopiero wtedy się go uczysz. A każdy ten sygnet kosztuje, żeby się go nauczyć jednorazowo. I te wszystkie skille elitarne, nagle się okazuje, że grasz łucznikiem, zobaczysz sobie na necie, że jest, nie wiem, podwójny strzał na łucznika, a okazuje się, że to jest w innym dodatku. I zanim ty tam dojdziesz, to musisz, stary, zrobić 20 questów i zeksplorować mapę, nie? I myślisz, ja pierdolę, no to muszę znaleźć coś na zastępstwo. I to Guild Wars Trilogy to jest podstawka Prophecies i 2 dodatki, czyli Factions i Nightfall. My będziemy to sobie, wiecie, widzowie, przechodzić, zaczniemy sobie od Prophecies, no nie, i będziemy sobie to wszystko razem. Ile z klas? 8 chyba łącznie. Tylko w Prophecies jest dostępnych 5. Jest wojownik, elementalista, mnich, nekromanta, mesmer. Potem dochodzi zabójca, rytualista, derwisz i patron. 6 jest, to nie wymieniłem czegoś. Rangera nie wymieniłem.
Or sub to the channel for more MMO stuff. Ring the bell for all the future notifications. As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch.
No to genialne. Nie mogę się doczekać, widzowie. Czekam jak na premierę, nie?
For now, let's begin. Guild Wars 1. Right, we have a lot to cover and no defined place to begin, because to understand even how to play Guild Wars 1, you need to understand the strange way it's been created and how its expansion packs worked. First off, yes, it's still online and still playable. In fact, the devs have basically said the resources required to run Guild Wars 1 are so small, they'll keep it online indefinitely. There's even an article on the two guys...
Jeżeli bez kitów tą grę gra 30 osób dziennie, jak się nagle zaloguje do niej 200... Czy te serwery nie padną?
Keep it going. It is, however, a paid game, but the whole appeal of Guild Wars 1, it was a buy once, play forever game, no monthly sub. It's even on Steam, but buying the whole thing gets kinda confusing, so let's break it down. The main game of Guild Wars 1 is made up of 3 chapters.
Tak, bo ja też mam wersję non-Steam, jasne, no. No ale to widzowie, ile tu może być osób w tej grze? Te miasta są puste fest, nie?
Which many assume is the core game because it was the first to release, then factions, then Nightfall.
W ogóle patrzcie, ta gra ma tak przepiękne plakaty. Jezu, ta nekromantka, jak ona wygląda. Genialną, kurwa, ma wizję Guild Wars. Stary. Ta nekromantka i ta asasynka wyglądają świetnie.
There is narrative timeline flow from 1 to 3, but you can play them all in an interesting way. You can start a character on Prophecies, then play through it, then start a new character on Factions and play through that, then start a new character on Nightfall and play through that, and you're encouraged to do this, because there are new classes in Factions and
I
Nightfall.
też generalnie widzowie, żebyście mieli świadomość tego, to nie jest MMO typu WoW, to nie jest MMO typu Albion albo Tibia, które zżera bardzo dużo czasu, gdzie musisz się zalogować, zrobić dailisy, gdzie musisz się raz w tygodniu zalogować na raid, gdzie musisz wbijać maksymalny level 200 godzin. Nie, naprawdę to MMO ma tak przystępny system. Naprawdę. Zobaczycie to? Ja mam wrażenie, że to MMO się świetnie zamortyzowało, dlatego, że ma zupełnie inny system.
And if you start fresh in each chapter, you're able to play through that chapter's tutorial area and experience the whole story.
Boryso.
But if you want to finish Prophecies and then use your old character to play through Factions or Nightfall, you can. You'll just be starting at a higher level and skip the tutorial sections of those chapters. Basically, if you and a friend both want to play through just Nightfall without completing Prophecies or Factions, you can just start at Nightfall, that's fine. And then, when you've got a higher level character on at least one of the chapters, you can move into the actual expansion Eye of the North, which is a load of content specifically designed for higher level characters. For this video, I'm going to start and play through the beginning of Prophecies, because I want to experience the actual start of the game as it was all those years ago. First up, character creation. I'm going with a necromancer, because I'm hoping I get to raise an army of undead minions and siphon health away from enemies. Amazingly, the name Josh Strife Hayes isn't taken, and I can have a name with spaces finally. And we open into a cutscene. Cue the wave of nostalgia that's about to wash over all the Guild Wars 1's fans watching right now.
The last day dawns on the kingdom of Ascalon.
Stara Ascalon. Kurwa.
It arrives with no fanfare,
i widzowie, gra jest całkowicie po polsku.
Those who will remember will speak fondly.
Ale nie ma chyba
of the
dialogów po
warm
polsku,
morning
nie?
breeze.
Tylko ma napisy. Czy ona była
People carry
całkowicie
on
po
with their
polsku?
daily
Napisy,
lives,
okej.
unaware that in a short while,
Tylko napisy.
everything they have ever known will come to an end.
Scribe?
Yes, my lord.
These Char are relentless, but we shall hold the wall at all costs.
Yes, my lord.
Take this message to Sir Titus. Go forth and recruit the strongest, the smartest. Bring to me the bravest in all of Ascalon. Find me the heroes who will lead our kingdom to glory.
So the Char, that's those beastmen, are attacking and we need to go and make them stop. The game starts, WASD and left click movement. Spacebar does
Ja
not
wiem,
jump
zawsze
because
włączony
Guild Wars 1 has
movement.
no Z axis. There is no jumping in this game. All the maps are essentially a flat plane, and this does take some serious getting used to coming from the jumping puzzles of Guild Wars 2. Thankfully, rebinding keys is really easy. The interface in the game are top quality. Although we'll look at
to
some
jest,
stat
to jest
screen
gra z
issues
najlepszym
later. Chat
interfejsem,
this
jaki
guard, he
kiedykolwiek
sends
powstał.
me to
To
tidy.
jest gra, gdzie sobie odpalasz interfejs i każdą rzecz możesz przesunąć gdzie
Yes,
tylko
most
chcesz.
of the game is a
Przejdzie to?
third-person classic RPG adventure style, but you can zoom in and play first-person if you like, although it's not recommended because, as we'll see later, combat gets very tactical very quickly.
Ta
The
gra
world
jest
map is
bardzo
relatively
taktyczna.
basic, lacking any signifiers of connected regions or easy to recognize locations of map transitions. Navigation is actually one of the qualms we'll keep coming back to. It's not bad, it could just have some quality of life improvements made to it to help new players navigate easier. Quick note about the sound. The soundtrack is absolutely amazing because it's done by Jeremy Soule, the genius behind Morrowind, Skyrim, Supreme Commander, Dawn of War and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance.
Co
This
ty
is
gadasz?
basically
Nawet
the
nie
go-to
wiedziałem.
guy for video game soundtracks. Head through the gate and, right, let's address the this is not an MMORPG argument. Guild Wars 1 is not fully open world. It doesn't even describe itself as an MMORPG. The cities and the safe zones are player hubs, and if you're in a city, you will see other people around you. When you leave into the surrounding wilderness, you'll be leaving into a specific instance that only you and your team will exist in. You
No, to
won't
jest
bump
mega
into
dziwny
other players
system.
randomly in the wild.
A to ma
While
widzowie
in a major
sens.
hub city, you can
Tu,
team up.
jak jest twoja mapa, to tutaj na tej mapie masz obszar twojego agropulowania. To jest najważniejsza rzecz w Guild Warsie. Tutaj przez niektóre lokacje przejść to jest serio kurwa wyczyn. Jak miałem 12 lat, to stary bez kitu zrobić niektóre misje w tej grze to był wyczyn i zobaczycie, że sobie nie będziecie z niektórymi radzić. To są tak pojebane rzeczy
And
w tej
then you
grze.
can go and take on whatever quest you've all got. This is the essence of the
Świątynia
game design.
Taktakaj,
Guild Wars
kurwo,
1 is
nienawidzę
much
cię.
closer to a traditional RPG adventure game that just happens to be online. It's not an MMORPG as we would expect. It is an
Ja też
online
dużo grałem w
experience, an
Call Online'a, to
adventure
jest
game with
straszny
other
syf.
players gathered into towns, creating smaller parties to go adventuring and exploring with. Now you'd assume if the game was balanced around teamwork, you'd have issues once the player base begins to drop, but don't worry, they've thought of that, as we'll see later. We're told to go and kill some scales down by a river. Combat is pretty simple. Left click and enemy start auto-attacking, and you've got an ability hotbar down the bottom. Now you can actually equip any weapon, no matter what class you chose.
To też jest
Weapons
fajne.
are not class specific. As long as you have the required skill level in the relevant skill, you can use it. And you'll see the hotbar down the bottom. You can mix and match abilities from two separate classes to make up your ideal set of abilities. A primary class you choose at the start, and then you can mix any secondary you like. But you can only change your abilities in a safe city. Once you leave to go adventuring, you've committed to that build for that adventure. Now, I'm a big fan of classic adventure RPGs, and so far, I was having a good time. But it was this exact moment that really made me smile. A picturesque fantasy village, waterfalls in the distance, a beautiful high fantasy musical score accompanying that classic adventure
zajebiste
game
to jest.
graphical style, with textures a little bit too complicated and a little bit too saturated and angles a little bit too sharp. Right then I knew, even if I found aspects I'm going to dislike, and I do, I was probably going to like the overall experience of playing Guild Wars 1. Have a chat with a priest and he sends me to deliver something. Now you can use the world map to fast travel, but only to major hubs or cities you've already been to, which saves a lot of time and I'm fine with. Now I get told to choose a second profession, so I do what anyone would do and go to the wiki to read up on the builds, and there are so many builds in Guild Wars 1, it is ridiculous. There are literally thousands of abilities. And I'm not exaggerating, that's not
3,500,
hyperbole. There are in
dokładnie.
fact thousands of abilities. The first thing people explain to me is there is no best build. There are just complementary builds. And
Nie,
as a
to są dobre buildy na konkretne segmenty mapy, no nie? Masz na przykład buildy do biegania dobre, do przechodzenia przez różne lokacje. Masz świetne buildy do na przykład AOE Cleara. Masz świetne buildy na konkretne misje. Masz świetne buildy pod team. Masz świetne buildy na rajdy, ale tu nie ma czegoś takiego, że masz all-roundera na wszystko. Możesz mieć build, który wiesz, będzie dobry na fabułkę, ale nie poradzi sobie w rajdzie, nie?
answer, it would benefit me some way to have a way to refill my own mana. So I went with Mesmer, which is a rather unique class to the Guild Wars
A, i
franchise.
każdą klasę, słuchajcie, musicie połączyć z jakąś podklasą. Możecie to zmieniać na każdym etapie praktycznie gry. Znaczy, no tam trzeba pewnego questa zrobić, ale to raczej bezproblemowo zmieniasz sobie te dodatkowe klasy. No 55 HP Monk, no najlepszy. No ja grałem Asasynem 55 HP pod Shadow formę, nie? Ale to jest taka sytuacja, że grasz wojownikiem i sobie myślisz, ty, kto będzie najlepszy na wojownika? To przecież mnich. Będę się sam leczył wojownikiem, nie będę potrzebował teamu.
Kind of a wizard who focuses on manipulation magic. In Guild Wars 2, they can create portals to make the jumping puzzles trivial. In Guild Wars 1, they can get you all your stuff back. For my first Mesmer task, I need to go and kill a bull, and on the way I check my skills out, and what are all these little symbols next to the abilities? I don't know what they are. So I find a drop-down menu which explains them, but again, this is an aspect of the age of Guild Wars 1. This was a game released on physical CD. I've even got the Nightfall expansion pack in physical copy
Ja
on
wszystkie
my
mam
shelf
fizyczne
in the
kopie.
background. You can see it in the live videos. And in all of those packs, you get a manual. And while you can still download the PDFs on the website, this game comes from an era where your parents would buy you a game and you would sit in the back of the car eagerly reading it. Or you would get home and install the game and sit on the toilet
Tak
reading
było,
the manual
podczas
as it's
instalacji
installed.
się czytało
It's a
te
game that
rzeczy, no.
expects you to already know stuff because it gives you the reading to teach you the stuff. So I will forgive it this for not explaining it in-game. On the way, I get attacked and I get destroyed. Right, important note about enemies, they want you dead. And enemies
Tu się
have the
giga
same
łatwo ginie.
abilities as players. Enemies will use special attacks. You'll recognize them. They will heal themselves. They will crowd control you. The AI in Guild Wars 1 doesn't need to mob you or swarm you or overwhelm you because 2 or 3 enemies can just out-heal and outplay you, which is a design
To jest
style I
najważniejsze, tu trzeba
love.
tak widzowie interaptować, tutaj trzeba tak mądrze, tu spulujesz za dużą grupę, grupa będzie miała 2 healerów sobie w mobach, idź w chuj, nie? Nie ma bata, że to wyczyścisz.
It makes each individual enemy potentially dangerous if you're not prepared. When you die, you'll resurrect
Tu
as a
każdy pól
shrine
jest
and get a little
istotny.
death
W tą
debuff,
grę
which
nie da
drops
się grać tak jak w WoWa, słuchajcie, na takim autopilocie, że sobie idziesz do przodu, nie? Nie da
off
się.
over time. And as I return to life, a small girl asks me to find her flute, saying she dropped it by a river. Okay, child, the Char invasion can clearly wait. This is obviously more important. But oh, here's an interesting quest. Form a party. That's the whole quest. Form a party with another player. So I decide, let's go to town and try and do this. I have a quick look at who's around, and the answer is not many people. I do see one person. I say hi, and they disappear. Wow, rude. I explore around some more, and I manage to find the area from the opening cutscene. Oh, cool. I love it when you can visit places in-game that you've seen in cutscenes, and they look identical. I really thought there'd be like a main town square or something, but no, this whole place seems pretty deserted. I do see some more quest givers though, and here's an issue. The minimap and the world map do not show you quest givers or available quests. You need to just wander around until you find them. And the community seem fine with this. Now personally, I like to know where the available quests are, but I will live with this design. Once you are on a quest, you can select it from your list and you'll have a green star appear on the world map showing you where to go, but no such system for finding them. Combat starts slow, but I do feel my abilities are substantial. Each one affects combat, I can level up, and I get some stat points. And you can spend
Tutaj
your points in
każdy
various
skill masz
skills. You hit
wrażenie, że
certain
ma
thresholds
znaczenie,
to
nie? W
use certain
walce.
items, and increased skills means
Bardzo
certain
duża to jest
spells are now more
konsekwencja.
effective. And in a very nice touch, you can reassign your skills while in any safe zone, so you can try out a variety of builds before you go adventuring. I like this. It means you're not forced to make an alternate character for every single playstyle of your main class. I go and kill some more bandits, and once I've actually started reading and using my skills tactically, the whole vibe changes. I can drain the enemy's health with my necromancer skills and refill my own heavily with my mesmer skills. I'm basically a self-healing wizard tank. I grab this quest item and carry it back.
Boxer
Literally,
czołgista.
you have to actually grab and carry the item. Try not to get attacked along the way. Except a few more quests, because Guild Wars 1 is designed so completing quests and pushing through the story is explicitly more effective than grinding enemies. The max level is only 20. And the first chapter, Prophecies, the one I'm playing now, will get you there about halfway through the story. Factions and Nightfall will actually get you there much, much quicker. Because once you're at level 20, it's about finding builds and skill points and items and team-based tactics to win any encounter. As we'll see later, it's less a level-based MMO grind and much more a classic RPG strategy game. Knowing I can self-heal, can I kill the Mesmer Quest Bull boss? Yes. Yes, I can. quite easily in fact. Now I could go and try all the other secondary classes, but I'm pretty happy with a self-healing necromancer, so I'll stick with this. Titus asks if I'm ready to go fight some Char, and I say, sure. This starts a 30-second countdown and warns me I'm about to leave everything behind, and here is where I made a mistake. Because the area I'm in right now is known as the pre-searing, and once you leave, you cannot return. And there are things in here it's very important to get, like skills, armor, weapons, and skill points. Now, the skills and items you can pick up later in the game, it's not a problem, but remember that little girl's flute
Kim ja
I
będę
didn't
grał?
find?
Wiesz co, ja mam stary specjalną listę zrobioną, ja ci powiem. Pokażę wam tą listę. Bo ja mam stworzoną taką specjalną listę, jakie postacie mam i jakimi chciałbym zagrać. I to wygląda tak. Wojownika Rangera mam, w propie zagram albo elementalistą, albo monkiem. Nekromantę mam, w Nightfallu zagram mesmerem, a w Factions zagramy rytualistą. Chyba tak zagram. Albo mnichem, albo chyba elementalistę sobie zrobię, wiecie? Tak po prostu.
Completing that quest gives you an item that you need
Oj,
hundreds of
zajebiście,
hours
Artur.
later in the
Essa.
Eye of the North expansion. And if you don't get the secondary class skill points from here, you basically lose them. This is like a LucasArts point-and-click game.
A
One
to jest
early...
generalnie ciekawa rzecz, bo to preludio tutaj jest... Możesz zrobić określoną liczbę questów, możesz zabić określoną ilość mobów, ale moby tutaj się kończą na jakimś, słuchajcie, 13 poziomie. Przez co od określonego momentu one przestają ci dawać expa. A są ludzie, którzy wbijają widzowie maksymalny poziom w tej lokacji. Zgadnijcie, jak oni to robią. Ciekawy jestem, czy wpadniecie na to. Jak w Guild Warsach 1 oni wbijają expa w momencie, gdy go już nie dostają. To jest jak Rugguard w TB, no? Questy, nie. Ale tak robią. Najpierw robią moba, a potem quest, ale jest jeszcze coś więcej. Idziesz, dajesz się zabijać mobom, wtedy te moby zdobywają za ciebie expa, wbijają level i potem jak ty je zabijesz, jak wbił level, to dostajesz expa. Musisz pierwszy wyekspić moby. Czajcie to? I za to jest w ogóle achievement wbić 20 level. To jest totalnie pojebane.
mistake and you pay for it later, although not quite as game-breakingly harsh. There is even an entire community built around playing Guild Wars 1 only in the
Dokładnie o tym mówi
pre-searing map.
teraz.
This is like the intro tutorial, and there's a small demographic of players who literally exist only here.
Rób
But I
stajerzy.
have committed to leaving, so off we go. 30-second countdown starts, and we're thrown into the first instanced adventure map with our Henchmen, and this is a brilliant system for solo players. Remember how the game is designed around having a party of players outside of towns? Well, if you can't find human players, you can just take AI-controlled
Ja pamiętam,
henchmen,
jakieś
and they're
stworzyłem nową
actually
postać,
pretty
która
damn
ludymi
good.
mi czarny
The
barwnik
healer will
wypadł,
always try and
Jezu.
heal you. The tank will grab the aggro. Now, you can't alter their weapons or equipment or skills, and you can't issue specific orders like who to attack or who to heal, but they will make the right decision most
Nie
of the
możesz
time.
forsować
But
to.
in the
Kogo
Nightfall chapter
zaatakują.
and the Eye of the North expansion, the henchman system got upgraded into the hero system. Now with heroes, you actually can change their equipment and customize their skills and combat choices. You basically build your own tactical team of 7 controlled companions. Some heroes need you to follow quest lines to unlock, some need to not be in the party to unlock new quest lines, and having a team of maxed out heroes makes taking on the game's hardest challenges possible as a solo player. We need to hunt down Doomtooth, so me and my team set off. This henchman system is brilliant. It can help if you look at Guild Wars 1 as a traditional RPG adventure game, with classes and stats and
No,
levels
to
and
jest
skills,
klasyczny
with a
RPG taki.
storyline and side quests that just happens to also be online. It's a narrative adventure game where your friends can choose to join you on your adventure. It's less massively multiplayer
Jezu,
and more
jak ja się,
instant
kurwa, nie mogę
multiplayer.
czwartku
Guild Wars
doczekać.
1 describes itself as an online RPG, and honestly, the focus on narrative adventures and meaningful plot-driven quests with named characters that I can
Widzę
team
jakąś
up
dramę
with
w
other
gildii
players
trzeba
to
odjebać,
complete,
nie?
or use henchmen
Trzeba
if
się
my friends
pokłócić
are
o
busy,
przedmioty.
over the usual MMO trope of kill X or collect X with no real relation to a greater narrative is a really nice experience. Guild Wars 1 feels like an adventure I want to go on, not just an adventure I happen to be on. So we kill the
Siano
boss, the
ktoś
kingdom is
zajebie, to ja.
saved, and then... Oh.
Jakiś ślub w gildii może zrobimy, no.
It was on that day
Jest kara za
that the
śmierć w tej
Char
grze.
discovered a way
Na
around.
wyprawie, na której jesteś, Na wyprawie, na której jesteś, otrzymujesz -% do statystyk. Za każdym razem jak umrzesz, który się kapuje na 60%. Są wyprawy, gdzie jak umrzesz 2 razy, to już możesz
The
zapomnieć o nich.
Great Wall, a way to bring it down.
15% się dostaje za deda, a nie 5%. Tylko potem za każdym razem, gdy zabijasz elitę, to też trochę odzyskujesz, nie? No i chuj, Ascalon rozjebany.
That was the Searing, the event we cannot return from. It is now 2 years later, and Ascalon is basically destroyed. The Char found a way to break the wall, and I guess we lost. There's an emissary from Kryta who's arrived, and we need to go and chat to them. Titus has been promoted in the 2 years since, and is now War Master, and he tells us, nope, don't talk with that dude, he is bad news, but we ignore him and go anyway. The game even reminds you about Henchmen in the quest description. Now, if you do take Henchmen, the experience you get will be split evenly between you, despite the fact they don't level up, and they will even take some of your gold drops, but it
To też
is
jest
worth
dobre.
it.
Możesz grać z najemnikami, jest ci wtedy łatwiej, ale oni biorą ci część golda, które dropi.
Just to have the support of the team. The ambassador dude, the one everyone was saying was terrible, literally gives me a quest to deliver some supplies he bought for an orphanage in the city, meaning the dude is either super cool and everyone's got him wrong, or this is a really nefarious plot. Hand the stuff for the orphans to a lady in the city and then head back. There is a lot of walking in the early game, but the music is nice and I like looking at how the landscape has changed. And oh cool, you get a skill for completing the quest. That's one of the benefits of having a narrative-driven game. You can advance the player as they progress and regulate the amount of complexity they have access to, so you're not overwhelming new players too early.
No.
And just as I'm getting confident with my group of henchmen, the game
Ja też nie
reminds
lubię,
me
jak
not
gra
to.
za
The
dużo
enemy
rzuca na
have
początku, nie?
healers, and they are chain healing each other and then healing their frontline fighters faster than we can hurt them. I love this combat. It's not mindless, it's chaotic, but still in an organized way. It's actually very tactical. Honestly, Guild Wars 1 feels...
Ej, my musimy zebrać widzowie taki team, żeby grać bez najemników. Słuchajcie tą podstawkę. SC będziesz leczył nas?
strategy game and less like an action game. Like you're balancing
Widzowie,
your
szukam
resources,
tanka,
your enemy's
healera,
resources,
ja chyba
you're trying to
Depsem będę
interrupt
grał.
their plans as you establish your
Do
own and
teamu.
put yours into motion. I can imagine
Trzeba
with
na
human
Discordzie
players, these
zrobić
missions get
looking
really
for
tactical.
party.
We actually die to this group of enemies, not because they're more powerful, but because I didn't organize well enough. And
Szukam
when you're in the
Monka.
wilds, you have to wait for your whole group to wipe before you can revive at the nearest revive point. Oh, also quests don't have recommended levels listed with them. You don't really know how difficult a quest is going to be before you take it on, but the early game stuff seems pretty well balanced. I'm guessing it's balanced around map location of rough level that you'd be. Enter a new area. Now I've learned to focus on the healers, so every combat encounter is now quite fun. You need to focus enough to know that you're on top of things and abilities are being used, but it's not so intense it becomes draining to repeat it. It is so much closer to a classic tactic game than the action combat of Guild Wars 2. I've only been playing a short
Tak
time
jest.
and I can
To
already
jest
see
bardziej
why
gra,
hardcore
widzowie,
fans of Guild
zbliżona
Wars
do
1
Baldura,
would not
no nie?
like the transition to Guild Wars 2, because
A
honestly
nie
they
do
are
WoWa.
two
Musimy
very
mieć tego
different
świadomość.
games.
Ta gra
One
jest
kind of
bardziej
annoying issue.
taktyczna.
The lack of a Z-axis means you have to find the downward slopes to move up or down hills, and there's no real way to know which slope you can walk up or down until you try. Oh, also the friendly henchman AoE skill and the enemy damaging AoE skill look exactly the same. Like if you're standing in a magic damage zone with spells raining down on you, you have to just watch and see if it's your own safe magic zone or the enemy's magic zone. If you start taking damage, you need to move. Guild Wars 1 is a great game, but it's not perfect. Ground markers could be useful. We get into a pretty damn big fight, actually lose our own healer and mage halfway through. Now, you are meant to have a resurrection ability by now, but that was gained back in the pre-searing and I just missed it. So I
W tego rezurekta w ogóle można raz na wyprawę użyć. Mnich ma rezurekta, nie? Też. To też jest dobre.
guess we're pushing on
I
without
może go
them.
używać
Remember,
ile
they
razy chce.
can't resurrect until we wipe, and each journey outside of a city is basically a mini isolated adventure, so it's just me and the tank now. Problem is, we found this quest boss, and he has a self-heal. This is what I mean by enemies using player skills. This boss can out-heal me and the tank, but we can out-heal his damage, so we're stuck in a stalemate. I need the rest of my team to beat this dude, and we don't have
Kurwa,
the
no może
DPS,
jakby Josh
so we
używał
have to
tej
die. And for some reason, we revive directly
trójki.
into another fight. Wow, spawn count. The AI really is similar to players. One good aspect, once you've killed an enemy mob in your current instance,
On już
they
ma minus
stay dead
22%,
provided you're
nie?
not in a specific cooperative
No
mission.
starty.
They only respawn once you return to town and then rejoin the wild instance. So you can die repeatedly and just keep trying to make progress as long as you don't leave the map. And with this tactic, we kill the boss. One bad aspect, my inventory is full. And you cannot drop items until your account is at least 24 hours old. You must go to a merchant and sell stuff. I paid for the game. I should
Co
be
ty
able to drop
gadasz?
items whenever the hell I want to. Back into town.
Serio jest, nie można, ale to chyba nie można na ziemię, a mógł je wyrzucić po prostu, mógł go zniszczyć.
More classic game issues. The minimap and world map do
Chyba
not
jakieś
show the
zabezpieczenie przed tradingiem, ale mógł zniszczyć
location of
item.
NPCs, so I don't know where the merchants are. It's one of those cases where the best way to know what to do is to already know what to do. Of course, now there's a wiki and maps and you can find NPCs, but without this info, navigation in cities is frustratingly trial and error. There are some collector NPCs who want specific crafted materials to trade for things, but it doesn't give me any information on how to get the things they want.
To jest
I know this
zajebiste,
is
że
just a
nie wiesz
staple of
właśnie.
old RPG games, but adding a little tooltip of your cursor over saying, oh, here's how you get this material, here is where it drops, would go a long way to helping accessibility in the early game. I even Google around for some mods. Mainly I want to see if there's a quest start location highlighter on the map somewhere, but everyone just says use the wiki. So I guess wiki it is. The only part of the game you can really permanently miss is the pre-searing, so at least I'll be able to come back later if I like and do all the quests that I've missed. While
Ja
reading
pierdolę,
around,
ale
I
się nie
find
mogę
this
doczekać,
interesting
widzowie,
Reddit thread
tego.
and then this article about the future of Guild Wars 1. They've basically said as long as Guild Wars 2 is running, they'll keep Guild Wars 5 because it's such a small amount of server capacity they don't mind sparing it. And I mean, it did release in 2005 and they've kept it online for 16 years despite Guild Wars 2 releasing in 2012. That's a pretty good commitment to your player base. Well,
Pewnie,
once I
że
know
ta
where
gra
to
z tymi
get
buildami
any of this
PvP,
stuff,
no.
I'm facing the
Dobra,
ruin.
widzowie, bo to już jest to już będzie opisywanie tej historii, nie? Tego questika. Kurwa, widzowie, taka gierka, pykamy w to, słuchajcie, od czwartku. Zapraszam na streamy, zobaczycie, jak ona serio wygląda na żywo. No i co? No i ją przetestujemy w grupie. Ja się, stary, nie mogę całkowicie doczekać, nie?